episode of the Saddle Up Show. I shouldn't even be saying another episode. I should be saying the first episode. Now that we found a new home, shout out to Horseshoe Huddle. Shout out to Sports Illustrated. The at name on Twitter is Colts on FN. Make sure you tap in. Make sure you go follow that page. Shout out to the chat. I already see it jumping off. We're gonna get to y'all in just a second. We just want to say special shout out to Chad and Jake and Zach as well, Andrew, Drake, the whole squad over there at Horseshoe Huddle, man, for reaching out to us and bringing us in and allowing us to continue to do what we love to do, man. I know Destin was extremely excited to hear about it. We actually got the phone call while we were out in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. We discussed it, we talked about it, and we decided to make this move, man. And we're excited to be here, our first live show. For those of you that's coming with us from Stampede Blue. I do want to say shout out to Stampede Blue and thank you, Stampede Blue, for everything that you've done for us. The opportunity you provided us with covering this last season with you guys was awesome. Great experience. Nothing but the best wishes goes out to them. Shout out to Brett, Chris, and all of the guys. It's a bunch of people over there that we rock with. Andrew, Steven. It's a lot of you guys, man. We love y'all. We appreciate everything you've done for us, and we wish y'all nothing but success for the 2023 season. So
Hey,
now,
I mean, I
how
can't
you feeling,
retweet. I
Destin?
can't retweet an actual voice message, but that's a lot of people to go through and think. If I don't
Yeah.
just retweet what Rashaad said, but yeah, appreciate everybody that's given us a chance before this. Really appreciative of this new opportunity here with Horseshoe Huddle and Sports Illustrated. So shout out to this team. Um, I've heard some people on Twitter calling us the Avengers of Colts media. So I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm just spreading the word a little bit. Um, Real quick, I had to throw this one up here. I felt this one, Matt. I felt this. This feels like a Colts presser. We were like 1 minute after
It's
seven.
7:01,
We
y'all.
were
Come
one
on
minute
now.
after seven. The Colts like to
Come
be like
on,
30
man.
minutes late. Like we don't need to relive that one.
The Colts pick out fancy chairs and stuff, when they introduce people. We remember the Jeff Saturday chair. We remember
Hey,
it.
Jim still brought out that big office chair right in the center for this last one.
Hey man, while we're on the topic of press conferences, the Colts had a big announcement that they made yesterday, announcing Shane Steichen as the new head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Before we get into the press conference, I ask you your initial thoughts on the hire. I know you had Shane high on your list among candidates, so if you could just let these people know how you felt about the hire as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, Shane definitely was the top of my offensive candidate list. If you followed along, I was a big Raheem Morris guy. I'm still a big Raheem Morris guy. I hope Raheem gets a chance eventually. I just feel like he has the credentials, he has the talent. So eventually that's going to happen for him. It didn't end up being here. The Colts ended up going offensive minded. It's the way of the league. We saw multiple jobs end up that way this cycle. Carolina hiring someone we may all know a little bit in Frank Reich over in Carolina. Sean Payton getting acquired in Denver. So 3 of the 6 ended up being offensive-minded head coaches hired this cycle. So half of them. But Shane has had success in the offensive department now with the Eagles with Jalen Hurts. I think the part of it that impresses me the most with him was the ability to take Hurts from being this questionable passer to being, oh my gosh, this guy's going to be the MVP this season. Like just Jalen Hurts did not just look like he took a step up as a player. Like Jalen Hurts looked like he was an elite quarterback this season. And a big part of that, in my opinion, is Shane Steichen, who had a lot of say in running that offense after Nick Sirianni kind of handed those duties over a little bit. So it was fun to have. It was fun to see the hire. I know everyone here was just ready for a hire. Is anyone? It could have been anybody except for Jeff Saturday, and I think fans would have been excited and ready for this to all be over. But it is. We have a head coach, and like the title of this says, we have a head coach. But what's next?
Yeah, man, and we're gonna get into a little bit of that. I'm sure throughout these questions, we're gonna ask the questions about, who Shane's staff is gonna be. And it's funny you mentioned that Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts point because you actually wrote a really good article that went live on Horseshoe Huddle today. Your very first article under Horseshoe Huddle. Do you want to talk about it just really briefly and tell people where they can find it?
Yeah, but make sure you guys are checking out everything from Horseshoe Huddle, all the articles coming out from everybody. But my first piece did drop today, and it talked a little bit about how Steichen has not just worked with Jalen Hurts; he's worked with multiple different quarterbacks, multiple different styles of quarterbacks. It focuses in on how those different quarterbacks he's worked with in the NFL level could go into who we could be drafting come April. Because I know that's where everyone's brain is moved. We have the head coach. It's time to have a quarterback.
Yeah, man, it's about that time. I wrote a piece. My first piece went live as well. Purely coincidental. Me and Destin did not have that plan. We just happened to finish our article literally around the same time, and his went up live early in the day, and mine went up later. Just kind of talking about my first encounter with Shane Steichen. I actually told the story on the Locked On Colts podcast with Zach earlier in the week. You know, my first time meeting Shane Steichen. Pretty cool guy. I actually met him twice. My second time was when the Chargers staff actually coached the Pro Bowl 2018. And this may be a sore spot, but this was actually Andrew Luck's last game he played in that Pro Bowl, and got a chance to meet Luck. That was actually my first time meeting Andrew Luck. But I saw Steichen again as well for the second time. And really great guy, really smart guy. Like I said, I told that story on Locked On Coach, so most of you probably heard it already. And I actually went through it and in a little bit more detail in the story I wrote today on Horseshoe Huddle. So make sure you guys check that out. A lot of great content up on the site right now. So without further ado, man, I think it is time to get to the Twitter questions. And I'm going to start it off, Destin, if you don't mind. Only if you don't mind. The first
Even
question is
I had
from
to.
you muted
I
yourself just now?
I did. I had to have at
Oh my
least
God.
one accidental muting. If you followed us from the last place, this is a staple. So expect that every episode.
I'm gonna be I'm going to be posting co-host tryouts. So any of you guys with talent on the mic, I'm looking to replace Destin. So, you know, y'all shoot me y'all best audition footage. I'm going to sit down and look at them all throughout the week, and I'll give you
Shaad's
guys an
DMs are about to
interview.
be lethal. Shaad's
My,
DMs are about to be crazy.
I'm having more interviews than Jim Irsay. God damn it! I'm gonna find the right person. All right, let's get to the first question. My man Drake Wiley, Drizzy Drake. He's asked the question before, so we're not gonna rate his at name. For those of you that don't know, we rate at names on this show. So make sure your at name is correct when you tweet us a question or send us in a question, because we definitely will talk about you if it has any underscores or numbers. His question is: which offensive position group for the Colts gets the biggest uptick in production with Steichen at head coach, excluding quarterbacks? My opinion, it's the running backs, Taylor, Moss, and Jackson. What do you think, Destin?
So I'm gonna give kind of like a multiple answer. I think
That's
just the,
cheating.
I mean, it's an element of the offense that I'm gonna say, so it's just gonna count a good group of people. I think the vertical offense in general is going to take a step forward. I think the new quarterback coming in with Steichen's offense. So to me, that's going to help not only the tight end group that's going to be able to be utilized with Jelani Woods, Kylan Granson, but the receiving group with Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, potentially Paris Campbell. Let us know in the comments if you think Paris Campbell is going to be here next year, because it's still up in the air. But I think both sets of those groups are going to see an uptick. I think because the big thing 2 years ago, even we go and we look, and it was just Michael Pittman in the past game that was really having an impact. The second leading receiver for the Colts had under 300 yards that season. I don't think that's going to be the case in this offense. I think Shane Steichen is going to develop ways to get men open, and we're going to see it impact the receivers and tight ends.
Okay, so since Destin cheated, quarterback was excluded. He took wide receivers and tight ends. Drake answered running back. I'm left with nothing on offense but the offensive line. And I think that has a good chance to see an uptick in production, especially at the level
Can,
this
can
offensive
we
line.
can we be a downtick?
I was about to say, so I'm gonna get this right due to default, because there's no way they could be worse than what they was last year. At the beginning of last year, I'll say, because the offensive line, whether you guys noticed or not, did play a lot better down the stretch. I know a lot of people want to credit Jeff Saturday. Hell, I give him credit for it. You know, it was mostly communication issues. You know, there was bad reps where guys got beat one on one, but the communication was the thing that really bothered me the most, because playing. That's an offensive line that's been together for a little while. Yes, they had two new starters, but the three guys that were coming back was supposed to be your All Pro, Pro Bowl level guys. We're talking Braden Smith, one of the best right tackles in the game. Uh, Ryan Kelly at center. The work speaks for itself. He seemed to hit a cliff this year, all the way actually back to last season. Toward the end of the season, he wasn't really playing well, and this year that kind of carried over into that. We know what Quentin Nelson does. I know he wasn't the Quentin Nelson that we knew from his first couple of seasons in the league, but he's still better than 95% of the guys that's playing guard in the NFL. And that was the guys you was banking on to be your anchor and to hold it down while the two new guys get adjusted. But once the Colts got it figured out late down the stretch, the offensive line started to play better. So I figured with a good offensive line coach coming in here, that Steichen scheme, that zone run scheme that will allow these guys to move in space, I think it'll be an uptick in production for that position group as well. Destin, you're muted again. OMG, man.
I don't even know. Maybe it was pausing for dramatic effect. Maybe that's what I was doing.
Destin, they
Maybe,
can see you. They can
yeah,
see you. People are looking
hey,
at you.
I was like miming it, I was just trying to see if I could get it going. But Ike Thomas here threw up a good comment. Are we going to be taking live questions? We are. We had some questions submitted on Twitter, so we're going to try to go through those as well. But make sure you're putting any questions you have during the show over here in the chat, and we will be going through them as well. But two times in the show is the max amount that I'm going to allow myself to leave myself muted. I promise.
Well, you're already maxed out, so let's try not to let that happen again.
11 minutes in, I just wanted to start out big. Next question here from Twitter. This is going to be a new at. So this is going to be the first at we're rating today. This is coming from Nate at High Tone 2. At High Tone 2.
Uh, Considering I don't know where the ad name derives from, I go search the page. I do investigate briefly to try to figure out if I can see where it comes from. Have no clue. Giving it a 6. That's my standard 6. I don't know where the background of the ad name. Nate, if you wanna explain yourself so I can maybe bump your grade up to a 7, 7.5, you got to give me more information than just high tone too, man. I'm sorry.
I do want to shout out the fact that his profile picture has a jersey that has High Tone as the name with the number 2. So that's dedication. Whatever this is, it means a lot to the person.
That's what I'm saying. We got to get to the
So I
bottom of this. Nate,
so I
hit us up.
respect that. I like how it sounds. I usually don't like the number game, but I like this better than a first name last name. So I'm actually going to give it a 7. So I'm a little bit nicer here.
Wow. This man comes to Horseshoe Huddle Sports Illustrated and don't know how to act. You just giving out 7s? That's what we doing?
Hey, I feel like I am the tougher grader here. I just feel like the jersey element of it, this obviously means something to the guy, and I low key like it. I like how it looks on the jersey too. So this comment here from Noah Compton though,
This is
I
hilarious.
feel like what he's saying is Shaad's not needed. Is that what he's saying? Is that me and a muted mic could just run this show and we would be golden? But question here from Nate: do you feel the Colts could be eyeing a quarterback that is not Stroud, Levis, Young, or Richardson?
Um, I believe it's possible, but when you're in a position that the Colts are in, they almost kind of admit it to being desperate, like and when you're desperate, you swing for the fences. And in my opinion, there isn't a guy with the upside that these 4 guys have. I have these 4 guys leaps and bounds ahead of the rest of the guys. I see people talk about Hendon Hooker. I like Hendon Hooker as a player. I'm scared that he's coming off of an injury and of his age. Other than that, I think he can make a lot of throws. I just don't see him with a lot of upside. So that's why I have it's such a big gap between where do I rank him and where is the rest of the 4. I really think he's almost to his ceiling as a player. Now, who knows? He may get in the NFL and light it up. I'm not a scout. I'm just giving my opinion on what I think he is from what I've seen. I've seen a couple games from him. I haven't went deep in the tape on him. I actually watched, a lot of Will Anderson and other guys, Jalen Carter, guys that played in the SEC that played against Hendon Hooker. So that's when I really actually got a chance to see Hendon Hooker under the microscope. And he's a pretty solid player. I definitely have a day 2 grade on him. But I just think the gap between these 4 guys is pretty big. And when you're a desperate team, you have to go for it. This is not a draft where the Colts can afford to pass it off till day two and hope they find a sleeper. They have to swing for the fences here, and I think they will. Shane's gonna want to get a guy because typically when you're a new coach, you're pretty much your coaching span is hitched to this guy. You guys will be tied for a very long time. Hopefully for a very long time. If it's a short time, we could see a Zach Wilson situation. So hopefully the Colts go out and get their guy early, and we don't have to have this conversation because I know Destin's not interested in looking at anybody past the top four.
Hey, I want to mention it. We got to meet Hendon Hooker down at the Senior Bowl. Got to
Mm-hmm.
talk to him a little bit. Like the guy is approaching this offseason with the injury really well. He's progressing nicely. But I'm going to be honest. I don't think the Colts would be considering anyone outside the top four if Hendon Hooker was completely healthy. Like I like Hendon Hooker. I think the age element is going to get added in there. I think there's a lot of things on the mental side that he's going to have to learn. Where this injury could probably end up helping his career in the long run because he's going to get to spend this year working on all those things that he is not caught up on, and that's essentially going to be his job this year.
Yeah.
In practice, he's going to have a clipboard. Essentially, he's going to be able to like run those things. He's going to learn a playbook. He's going to get to work through those things that way. So I think in the long run, it'll be better for Hendon that this happened. But I don't think the Colts have any interest outside this top four. I think this top four is a large gap from them to the fifth person in this class. If it's whether you have it that it's Hendon, whether it's that you have it being someone else in this class that you like maybe a little bit more than anybody else. I think it's going to be this top four. And if you listen to Jim Irsay, I mean, that kid from Alabama looks all right.
Jim Irsay is full of. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it, but yeah. Let's get to the next question. I specifically ordered this question this way because I know you had some information on it. I didn't know if you wanted to share it. I didn't know if you could share anything about it, but I know we talked about it, backstage behind the scenes. So let's get to it. This question is from Taylor Phoenix. New at name alert. His at name is at TSP9605. Destin, what you giving that?
Man, it's a lot of numbers. It's four numbers. TSP Taylor
I'm
Phoenix
assuming that's
S. I'm
initials.
guessing
Yeah,
it's initials. So
yeah.
6.5 is my name one. I'm gonna drop it a little bit because there's four numbers there. That's a lot. Can't sell me that's an area code. And if that's a zip code, you probably shouldn't be putting that on there.
I
But
know,
I,
right?
I'm a roll with. I'm probably a 5. I like Taylor Phoenix. If that's your first name, last name, that's a cool name in general. You're just gonna have to get a better at, but I'm gonna roll with a 5.
um, since you gave a boost to somebody for literally for their profile picture, my man's a wrestling fan from what I see on his page. So I'm gonna give him some extra points for being a wrestler. I'm gonna give him a 6 because I was gonna get it a 5 just looking at the ad name. I don't like the ad name. It's okay, but I don't really like
But
it.
he likes your
But
interests.
yeah, I like the fact that he's a wrestling fan for sure. Uh, Question: on a scale of not happening to it's a real possibility, how likely is it Philip Rivers is our quarterback coach next year?
I mean, if you listen to the press conference, Shane Steichen has a very high opinion of Philip Rivers. If you've looked into what Philip has shared since the hiring, Philip has a really high view of Shane Steichen. So I'm gonna go towards it's a real possibility. I've heard that there are people in the building that view Philip Rivers his mental side to a light that they would love to have him on staff. It does not mean he is going to do it. And I have no idea if there is any interest from Philip to leave his high school setting. He's getting to coach his son right now. That could be really where he wants to be. He just kind of sold the house in Indy and moved back out to Alabama. So who knows if he has any interest in trotting the family all the way back to Indy. But I know if Philip Rivers had interest, there are people in this Colts building, Shane Steichen included, I'm sure, who would love to have him on staff. Now, would that be the quarterback coach? Would that be another element? I have no idea, but there is interest in the building for Philip to coach in this for this organization sometime.
Yeah, man, I think it just makes a lot of sense. If he was ever going to come back in that role or in that capacity or go anywhere, to take on that kind of job, this would be the situation that just makes so much sense to him, considering his ties to the team and the organization and his relationship with Steichen. They're really close. For the people that don't know, Steichen and Philip Rivers talk all the time. Every other day, a couple of times a week, however you want to word it. But they have a really good relationship. So the comfortability will be there for Philip Rivers. If he wants to take this job, he's familiar with the locker room. He knows this organization inside and out. Aside from the Chargers, he probably knows this organization better than any of the other 30 organizations that's in the NFL. So that job would make sense, and I wouldn't be shocked if Steichen was to offer it to him. Now it would just be up to Philip on whether or not he's interested in the job.
So we got one here that's kind of similar in the coaching staff department. What about Wayne? What about Wayne gonna be back? Do you think Reggie Wayne's back?
I think they'll offer it to him. Now whether or not he'll take it, is Wayne's kind of dude that kind of just moves on his own accord. Shout out to Reggie Wayne, New Orleans legend. Hometown guy for me personally, but he just kind of beats at his own drum. He sometimes maybe you want to coach, and other days I can see him waking up like to hell with it. I just want to go on a vacation right now. So to make that commitment to that, if it's something he truly loves to do, I do think that he's such a great player and he made strides as a coach in his first year that out of respect they will offer it to him. I think Steichen will extend that courtesy to him, but I don't know if Wayne's going to accept it. But I do think he'll be presented with the opportunity to stay if he wants to stay.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's up to Wayne at the end of the day. I think he started to miss Miami even in middle of the year. I think he enjoyed coaching this group. I think he didn't realize what the everyday of coaching and what that commitment looked like before he took it. The reason he took it eventually early on was because him and Reich had such a good relationship. So Reich being out the door, like I think there's a real possibility that Reggie doesn't know if he wants to do this anymore, but I think if he wants to, it'll be in Indianapolis. I think that's just where the fit is. He likes this group of guys that are here. So personally, I think he's gonna be back. I think that's what it'll end up swinging. If I had to guess right now.
Yeah, that's the direction I see it going in as well. I'm in total agreement with that.
All right, next one here from Jake Wardle at Coach_Wardle. I'm pretty positive we've answered from Jake before,
Yeah,
so we
we
don't
did.
got to rate that at. So with the length of Steichen's contract, which is 6 years, by the way, if anyone listening didn't know, does Ursay see this as a complete reset for Ballard as well?
Not a complete reset. I think it's a soft reset. I think it bought him some time because, you know, it was looking shaky for Ballard. It was actually looking really shaky. And after Wright got fired, his name was, held to the hot seat. But Saturday came in and became such a polarizing thing. It's like people kind of forgot about Ballard. Ballard really got off the hook. We was all attacking Saturday, and shout out to Saturday. Did you see what did you see his post that he had right
Hey,
before
he
the
said
presser
he said
dropped?
his wife and son probably signed that thing.
I felt like he was talking directly to us. I just felt like we was leading the charge. With that whole petition thing. But yeah, man, Ballard crept out the back door pretty much at the end of the season. Like it became priority. I was a guy that wanted Ballard gone. I'm gonna be honest about this. I'm not gonna pose, but Saturday was so bad that I was willing to put up with Ballard. I'll deal with Ballard as long as we got Saturday up out of here. That had to be priority number one. The Colts actually did it. And if you followed me or anything you heard me and Destin say, is I never thought Ballard was bad at his job. I still don't think Ballard is bad at his job. I think there's elements to his job that he's really actually pretty good at. But it's just some things that we don't agree with as far as philosophy and core team building and the way I look at how the game should be prioritized and what position should be prioritized. We just have some philosophical differences. But Saturday was just bad. So I would much rather deal with Chris Ballard. I don't think this would be a hard reset. I don't think he had 6 years just because Steichen got 6 years. I do think we can see a situation similar to the Mike Vrabel situation that happened in Tennessee. If Ballard struggles this first and second year, I can see Ursay maybe cleaning house and Shane Steichen being the last person standing.
Real quick, Patrick. I'm new to this live thing, all right, and I stretch my collar out a lot. So I'm gonna try to see what it looks like to get a 10, though. So that might be just some motivation to figure out what I got to do here. But we're gonna see.
Patrick's having
Um,
fun in this chat, man. I see him. He's going crazy in here.
so honestly, when I saw the 6 years for Steichen, that's a lot for a first time head coach. That's a pretty rare thing you see. I will say that first. That was my first thought. I don't know if I'd say it's a complete reset, but I think Ursay and Ballard understand that this offense was so bad last year that asking a guy to leave what he had in Philadelphia just now and coming here he needs a leash. He needs a longer leash to be able to get to where they are because that Eagles team, I mean, best offensive line in football. Those weapons they had out there were unreal. The quarterback they had in place that Steichen progressed. I mean, there's talent in this building. Don't get me wrong, but there's not that talent right now. So to expect Steichen to come in day one and just implement what the Eagles had would be unrealistic. So I think giving him 6 years just showed how much they wanted that guy. But also, I just think it shows that they know how much work needs to be done on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I agree. So, next question is from Witcher Sap of West T. His ad name is No Cap Sap. Uh, I kind of like the ad name. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of swaggy. I'm going 7 for this one, man. I might go 7.5. No Cap Sap. Yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
the fact that
it
he
could
has
be
that
no.
last
It
name is
could be No
nice.
Caps app.
I mean, it looks like it's his last name.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go 7.5. I rock with that actually. What you going?
I like it too. 7.5 was what I was thinking before you even said it, and then you changed it to it. So you had to steal it. But
Yeah, that's what I do
yeah,
occasionally.
I'm gonna go 7.5, which is pretty high for me, to be honest. I think the
I don't know.
highest I've ever given out
You've
is
been
an
pretty
8.
loosey goosey with your grading today, man. I
I
don't know
think
what's
the
going on with you.
highest I've ever given out is an 8. So 7.5. I like it. I like how it sounds. No
S-
underscore. No numbers.
Nah, I think you gave Steinemite an 8.5. Actually, I
You're
think
right.
you gave Steinemite.
Steinemite is nice.
Dynamite is fire though. So I'm not mad at you for giving that an 8.5. All right, let's get to the question. Who are your guys' favorite fit at quarterback? Now knowing that Steichen is our head coach. Big fan of the show, by the way. Keep up the hard work, fellas. Thank you. No cap sap. I appreciate that.
So this isn't a popular answer. I actually I had CJ Stroud as the number one quarterback, no matter who the head coach was hired. I think CJ Stroud has the most realistic path to being very successful, being that franchise quarterback at the next level, in my opinion. With his talent, his build, his mental side of it, that's off the charts, in my opinion. I mean, that's who I would still say would be my favorite. And like I said earlier, I think the cool part with Steichen is we don't have to pencil him in as a guy that has to find the next Jalen Hurts. I mean, he, I understand Justin Herbert is Justin Herbert now, but we have like put yourself in the situation again. Justin Herbert's drafted a lot of things going through the head. He was Twitter's favorite quarterback to call a bust before the draft that year. Pretty similar to this year's Will Levis, to be honest. So when you look at it that way, and then they go into the year, they sign Tyrod Taylor to start. They have a crazy medical situation go on where Tyrod Taylor is put out of commish, and Justin Herbert has to start. Steichen had to get Herbert ready to play immediately after that. And Justin Herbert came out firing, loses an overtime game to Kansas City, throws for over 300 yards, looks the part pretty much instantly, doesn't look like a rookie. Um, and he is not, and Justin Herbert is not a Jalen Hurts type athlete. Justin Herbert is more than athletic enough to extend plays, and we saw that, but has the big arm to do things like that. So I think you could look at a lot of guys. I think any of the top four are in his wheelhouse, which is opens a door of possibilities, which is amazing.
Yeah, when you go and break it down individually, there's characteristics that each of these guys have in the top four that's comparable to somebody that he's coached so far, with his skill set. You got the mobile guy, you have like Anthony Richardson, Jalen Hurts. You could see the similar comparison. I actually think Anthony Richardson has a lot more upside than Jalen Hurts has. but the floor is lower, and it scares me half to death. And I don't know if I'll be able to sleep at night if we draft Anthony Richardson. Although I'm in love with the upside, and I'll be excited for the pick, just the uncertainty of it would be scary for me, man. So, I do trust Steichen that if Anthony Richardson was the pick, that he would be a guy that can install an offense and build the offense around him to so that he can be successful. Because I saw him do it. I saw him do it a couple different times, and I would be more than happy if he was the pick. It's just Anthony Richardson himself scares me as a product, but Bryce Young, the guy who I think is the most talented quarterback in this draft. I've told you that several times. I think he can do everything. I think he can. I trust him the most to create a bucket. He is accurate. He's smart. Knows where to go with the football. Processes at a good rate, and the arm talent is there. So he literally doesn't have a flaw in this game besides the fact that he's really small, like really small. And I believe he played this season at like 180, 185. That's ridiculous. You cannot play quarterback in the NFL at that size and expect to consistently be healthy. It's just too dangerous, man. The game is played too fast. These guys are gonna get hit, and I just don't see him holding up throughout a whole season that way. Uh, if you want to go CJ Stroud is an easy answer. He's in my opinion the guy that's most ready to come in and play right away. I don't think you would have to tailor actually too much around his skill set. He's a guy that can play in different types of offenses and be productive. He's athletic enough. He's accurate. He processes at an elite rate, and he pushes the ball downfield when he needs to, man. But he's also a guy that's smart enough not to throw into a bunch of dangerous situations. We saw in the Georgia game, he has the escapability enough to create plays and make plays from any point on the field. So I love CJ Stroud. Will Levis, I know everybody hate him. I like Will Levis. I do think a better fit for him is Carolina now that Frank Reich is there. So I think that's a Frank Reich type of guy. I can see Frank targeting him in the draft. Uh those four though, man, those four excite me with Shane Steichen, and I'm just glad that we now have the coaching decision, just done and out the way. So now that we can focus all of our energy onto quarterback, just for the coach to trade back and take a pass rusher.
Did you see the picture today of Mila from ESPN posting a picture next to Bryce Young?
Oh no, I didn't see it.
Oh, oh,
Am I
Shaad.
missing out on something? Okay, I'm going. I'm going to
You
see.
look it up while I talk, but she had the internet just going crazy because she posted a picture where Bryce Young looks maybe 2 inches taller than her. And when she's
Really?
on TV, she looks a little small. She prefaced like an hour later after everything was blowing up that she was in like 4 inch heels, so she wanted to give that to him, and that he's not that small. But the comments and everything, man,
I see
people
it.
were talking about how Mila's over here tanking Bryce's draft stock in one picture. All jokes aside, though, I mean Bryce Young does things as a quarterback that these other guys don't. Look at that. Just that's crazy.
That's tough,
Um,
man. That's tough,
but
man. Maybe I was about to
uh,
say maybe she had on heels.
she claims she had 4 inch heels on.
Okay,
So
okay. I
she
feel
she
a
even
little better
she
now.
got she even got specific with it. That sounded like it was from Bryce Young's agent himself, but we don't have to get into that. Uh,
The funny
but
thing is, I'm more concerned about Bryce's weight than his height,
oh,
actually,
without a
though.
doubt, the height. Like
I,
I don't care.
yeah,
Even Kyler, who is listed at 5'10", 5'11". I mean, I've been in the same room as Kyler. I went to school out in Oklahoma City. I've been in the same room as him back. I go out to Norman a lot. Um, if you asked me how tall I think Kyler Murray is, I think he's 5'7" on a good day. They can list him at whatever they want, though. But even Kyler Murray is stockier. Like he has more on him to where I don't think I would be as concerned about him having longevity injury issues. Now Bryce Young made it through college, didn't have a abundance of injuries, so it's hard to just throw that on him and say it's gonna happen because of his size. But I think that fear has to be there. And as much as people talk about how teams are not going to trade up for Anthony Richardson, teams are not going to trade up for Will Levis. I think there's a real concern that teams will look at Young's size and look at that. We've not seen a guy that small weight wise succeed at that level and think to themselves, are we really going to trade up for this guy that would have to do something no one's ever done before? Like, I mean, you got to think there's teams that are going to be worried about it. I can tell you right now, Chris Ballard is going to be worried about it.
Yeah, we know what Chris Ballard does. He takes the physical specimens. He's a height, weight, speed guy. Even at quarterback, I'm sure he has, his height requirements. Now we did see him take a guy like Sam Ellinger, but let's be serious here. Ellinger was never drafted to be the guy. This time you're going to get the guy. There's no excuses. There's no reasoning on why. No excuses at all. You just got to go out and get somebody. So you want to get a guy that you're comfortable with. And if this is going to scare you and you feel like you're not comfortable enough to be able to accept his size, then you just have to go on to the next prospect. You don't want to just be completely uncomfortable drafting a guy that's going to be the face of your franchise. And in the back of your mind, oh man, you're scared to do this, or it's limiting your play calling in certain situations. That's what you don't want to do. You don't want to get a quarterback that handicaps your play calling to some degree, which I think it will with Steichen, because Steichen likes to weaponize his quarterbacks. We're seeing him do it repeatedly with Jalen Hurts, and he's not going to be able to do that with Bryce Young. You can't line him up. You can't run him 10 to 12 times a game. You can't ask him to scramble consistently. These defensive linemen are getting faster, bigger, and stronger every year, man. And to have Bryce Young running for his life. Now, how this all will play out, the Texans will draft Bryce Young, and he'll light us up for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns each time he plays us, because that's the way it goes, without luck. But that's cool. Let them have that problem. Let them go to sleep at night wondering if this is going to be Bryce's last game of the season. Let them have that headache. I'll be perfectly fine with CJ Bartholomew Stroud. And no, Bartholomew is not his middle name, but damn it sounded good. So that's what we're going to go with.
Put it on a
CJB
shirt.
CJB Stroud. There it is.
So, I mean, this is an interesting comment here about Richardson. I know me and Rashaad both are Anthony Richardson believers in a sense. But, I mean, I understand the sentiment. I have to see Richardson make some more throws because what I seen this past season was something from Candyman. I've seen some of you guys talking about how more like Superman. Anthony Richardson has some highlight throws. Now, what I think Rasheed here is saying, and if I mispronounced that, I apologize. Let me know. But what I
That's
believe
correct.
Rasheed is saying here is, I mean, he's played a very minimal amount in college so far. Like that's going to be the biggest knock that a lot of people are going to say. There's not a lot of tape. You don't know if what we're seeing is something he can consistently do. I also do want to point out that some of his mistakes, I think, with Anthony Richardson is, you guys are mentioning that it could have looked like Superman, making a joke off his Candyman. I think Anthony Richardson had to play a lot of Superman ball at Florida. Like we had to watch this guy do everything just to make them compete in games and sometimes win games that they had no business winning because that Florida team was awful.
And I was about to say, it's like Superman without the Justice League around him. It's like he has the Little Giants playing with him. He was literally out there creating stuff out of nothing. Some of his plays, some of his highlight plays, is some of the most ridiculous stuff you will ever see a quarterback do. No, he couldn't do it consistently, but damn it, who can do that type of stuff that he was doing consistently? What you would like to do is work on him from a technique standpoint, work on him from a fundamental standpoint, pretty much fix his base. And we have our guy Landon in here, a guy who we've all watched film of Anthony Richardson together. And there was a lot of things that he does need to clean up. But I think people are over exaggerating how long it's going to take him to get ready and to be ready to play. He's a guy that can end up seeing the field toward the end of his rookie season. And with the right quarterback coach and the right development in the right system, I think he could possibly hit the ground running, because let me tell you, from day one, he's going to be a contributor in the run game. He's going to flip the math instantly and punish defenses immediately in the run game. That's what he's going to do. And what that's going to do is force safeties to come down in the box, and it's going to open up more one-on-one opportunities for your playmakers. That's when your guys, your wide receivers, as we saw consistently with the Eagles, with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, get one-on-one situations down the field, and you have to make those guys pay. Now, if you don't have wide receivers that can punish teams, then of course teams are going to put 8 in the box. They're going to man on the outsides, and they're going to make your receivers make plays. And if your guys can't do that, then it's going to be a long year. But if you get some dogs that could go out there and win one-on-one situations, then Anthony Richardson's job becomes a hell of a lot easier. Why do you think Jalen Hurts developed the way he did? Yes, he got better as a passer, but they also surrounded him with elite talent. He has AJ Brown, who's a top 5 to 10 wide receiver in the NFL. Devontae Smith is a top 3, number 2 wide receiver in the NFL. Other than what? T. Higgins and Jalen Waddle, like that. Devontae Smith is right there. So you
Yeah,
have
so yeah,
Dallas.
so Jalen Waddle, Alec Pierce,
Okay. So tight end Dallas Goedert is a top 5 tight end. I don't know if you guys know that. The Eagles' offensive line is the best offensive line. That's what Jalen Hurts has around him. So yes, he developed himself as a passer. Steichen helped him in that regard, but they also surrounded him with a ton of talent. So it was easier for him to make that jump. I think Anthony Richardson is going to need some of the same things early on in his career till he get it figured out. And then I think once he does figure it out, then he's going to be the type of quarterback that can carry an offense, such as some of these elite quarterbacks we're seeing today.
So I mean, Patrick's saying that people are bagging on Richardson like he's the next Jamarcus Russell. I mean, Anthony Richardson gets a lot of his critics, but he is nowhere near the most scrutinized of these top four. I mean, at least amongst Colts Nation, you would think that Will Levis has
That's a good point.
physically murdered people's family members in Colts Nation. The way he is talked about by certain people in this fan base. I mean, Will Levis has his cons. Will Levis gets a lot of things compared to Thou Who Shall Not Be Named. That was the starter for the Colts in 2021. But I mean, Will Levis, a lot of these things that people talk about with upside, these very effortless throws, the mobility, Will Levis has those things too. And the difference with Will Levis is we've seen it more often. They like their situations are very similar to me in a sense. I mean, I think Anthony Richardson's ceiling is higher. Anthony Richardson is younger. I think Anthony Richardson's going to test as a better overall athlete. Will Levis may run a better 40-yard dash technically.
You think so?
Um, Anthony Richardson gets faster as he goes.
Yeah, he has
I'm really,
long
I'm really,
speed. He has long speed.
I'm really curious to see what the 40 looks like for both of them. I
Yeah.
think there's a world where Will Levis gets to that speed faster than maybe Richardson does. But what Anthony Richardson can do after he is in open field after running for 10, 15 yards and that extra speed he gets, whew, I mean, that's
He's
something
gonna
else.
he's gonna clock at least 20. He's gonna clock 20 miles an hour. I guarantee it. At some point in time in his rookie season, which is freaking ridiculous. Like for your quarterback to have that type of ability and an arm, though, he does have an arm. He makes some ridiculous throws, man. Like some ridiculous throws. And shout out to Steve Offord. He said Levis can throw 50 yards with a wrist flick. That he can. The arm talent is there for Levis, man. I'm telling you. I think sometimes he makes some terrible decisions. I don't think Anthony Richardson is as bad as Levis when it comes to decision making, but I think Levis just trusts his arm way more than he should. His arm is elite, but it's almost like the Brett Favre syndrome. You know, like Brett Favre was a gunslinger. I think Levis would get labeled that probably if he was playing in that era. You know, he would be considered a gunslinger, but a guy that trusts his arm a lot and makes some of those throws, similar to what Jameis Winston does, except I don't think Jameis Winston actually has the arm. I think Levis has a better arm than Winston, and I don't think he make as awful decisions as Winston does sometimes.
This is from Stats, Matt. People think Levis is a high 4.6 and Richardson's 4.4. I think they're going to be much closer than that. I'm not saying I think Levis is going to run it faster. I'm just curious to see when they get to run it on the 40. Because I'm just saying on tape, you see Levis accelerate maybe a little bit quicker out the gun than
Yeah,
you see Richardson. I think Richardson's top speed is by far the fastest of these top four guys.
yeah.
I'm just curious to see when he's put in the 40-yard dash platform how quickly he can get to that speed. I think there's a world where both could run in the 4.4s personally. Like I think Will Levis is going to be faster than you guys think, but I think Will Levis is better than you guys think, and I have him as my quarterback 4. Like I don't even love the guy. I just think all 4 of these guys have realistic paths to being franchise quarterbacks. So I do not look at him in the light where it'll be the worst thing in the world if we took him. Do I want to trade up for him? No. The only player I really want to trade up for though is CJ
Okay, rank your top
Stroud.
4 really quick.
I would go C.J. Stroud 1, Bryce Young 2, Anthony Richardson 3, Will Levis 4.
Okay. Now, is that your top four for the Colts, or is that your top
That's my
four
top four.
period?
That's my top four in general. I would say that this with the Steichen hire, I don't feel as necessary to change my order anymore because I
Hmm.
think Bryce Young is now actually going to be a consideration. I don't know that's who they are going to be favored, but I could definitely see Levis and Richardson jumping Young in the Colts mindset just because of how I just cannot imagine Ballard going that frame of body without Steichen just banging the table for Bryce Young, which could happen.
You
I
think
think
so?
I think Shane Steichen is going to have a lot of say in who this next quarterback is. I'm not going to say it's the say. I think there's going to be a lot of conversations, but I think he is going to be at the front of this conversation saying who he believes and what he believes these guys will be and mapping out what he thinks needs to happen for these guys to be successful, and then Ballard has to decide which of those paths this team can take realistically.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Let me see. There was a comment I wanted to hit in here. I think somebody was talking about said we sleep on Cam Ward. Um, sir, sir, you must be new here, sir. You must be new here. I've been banging the Cam Ward drum for at least a year now. I don't know if you know that, but
I say I don't think we're sleeping on him. I mean, he's just not to be considered right now. He's not coming out.
exactly. There you go. There you go. So,
Cam Ward, we're not sleeping on Cam Ward. We are really excited to watch him again
mhm.
in college this next year. Cam Ward has some fun throws. I I don't want to rank him right now because I've watched so much more of these four now that they've been in the class. But Cam Ward would be closer to being fourth than he would be to be sixth in this class. I'll say that
Yeah,
for me.
absolutely for me. I'm just looking at the people trolling. I seen the Stetson comment. I think that was hilarious. I do want to say shout out to Megan Hall though. She she showing us love. I pop in her lives all the time, you know, and say what's up. So I just appreciate her coming through and show us love for our first episode. She's over there at Coach Wire, putting in work. See her work on some of her work on Bleacher Report as well. Some of her written content. She's one of the dope minds that's in the Coach community. So I want to make sure I do that. There's people in here trolling, man. I'm about to start calling y'all out. This
We got some Stinson Bennett interest
yeah,
tweets
stuff I'm not
coming,
gonna
but
say. I'm not gonna
uh
say this stuff on on air,
we
but you know
but
that lets me
we're gonna
know it's close to time to wrap this show up. When you start seeing comments like that, man, I think we've
hey
been going for around 50 minutes anyway, so I think
we're
this is a
about
good
we're
time to put a bow
definitely
on it.
I say we're definitely about to head out. We're gonna ask one more thing just to like get the conversation, and then we'll head out. In a perfect world, Ursay calls you, Rashaad, and says you can hire the offensive coordinator under Shane Steichen. You know all his relationships, so you have that in
Mhm.
mind to use. Who do you hire?
um, I get anybody I want, or I have to keep this realistic, like
I
realistic to who it
mean,
possibly will be.
I would keep it under realistic because I'm assuming you want
Okay.
Brian Johnson like the rest of the world wants Brian
It's
Johnson.
not realistic. I would go with Kevin Patullo. Let's be
Okay.
honest here. The wide receiver coach, a guy with extensive history with the Indianapolis Colts. You know, a lot of the nerds, you guys know who this guy is. A very talented young coach that's I think is on the upswing. You know, this is a guy that may come here and only be here for 1 or 2 years because he's that good of a coach. The people that played for him rave about him. Coaches that he's been on staffs with just really respects this guy, and he was a guy that I was expecting to get promoted. Let's just say hypothetically in the situation, Brian Johnson was considering taking the OC of Carolina's job. I don't know how many people know that. I don't even know if I was supposed to say that, but what the hell? Brian Johnson was really considering becoming the OC at Carolina with Frank Reich, and if Steichen would have got hired away in that situation, it would have been Kevin Patullo that would have got the promotion. That's who Nick Sirianni was going to turn into, but he didn't do it. So wait, so why is people trolling? This is hilarious.
Sean,
Um,
you just can't be Chad watching, man. Chat watching will get you.
Sad
So you
watching it.
so
That
you
literally just knocked me off my train of thought. Saying that I do a podcast with such a sexy man. I didn't know you was a sexy man, Destin.
hey, I mean, I do what I can. But for me, I'm also gonna go a Colts reunion. I'm gonna go one that some people absolutely hate, but I'm gonna go one that I feel like I've seen him have solid production and working with young quarterbacks, multiple and back-to-back positions. I'm gonna go Pep Hamilton. Pep Hamilton didn't have a great ending with the Colts this last time, but Pep Hamilton's work as the quarterback coach
You're
with
gonna
Justin
receive some
Herbert.
hate for
Hey,
this,
I know
boy.
people, man. I know people are not Pep Hamilton fans, but I don't think you can look at what he did with Justin Herbert, and I mean, he had a hand in that as the quarterback coach. I mean, it was Shane Steichen, of course, but they already have that working relationship there. And then after that, you look at him going to Houston. Houston, I understand, not very good, but the fact that Davis Mills has looked adequate even from the jump, being a second round pick in that team in that situation. I think Pep Hamilton deserves so much more credit for the work he's done since leaving the Colts. I understand people have a rough thought in their head, but I know Pep Hamilton and Shane Steichen have a very good working relationship. I really think Pep Hamilton, if given another shot as an OC, he won't be calling the plays here. Obviously, Shane Steichen has that. But the other thing is, you want whoever this OC is going to come in to have some sort of play calling experience, because if Shane Steichen gets going into this mold as being a head coach and calling plays, and he realizes it's too much for him, he's going to have to give that away. So I like that Pep Hamilton has experience doing that. He's coming right off of that, but he also has experience developing quarterbacks.
Yeah, man. Real quick, this is the last thing I'm gonna ask you. This should be a short, quick answer. Scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about the Steichen hire?
A 10. I mean, Steichen or Morris, I was going to be ecstatic, off the moon. Top two guys that we could get no matter what. They decided to go offense. I think Steichen's intro was amazing. So 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, man. 37 years old, bright offensive mind. Told a story about when I met him. The quick interaction. He just kind of left me speechless when I met him. Just the thought that a guy that young coaching a guy that's a 13, 14-year veteran before the last game of the season, and it was working on such details like footwork. I think it was just kind of so captivating to me, because normally you guys are game planning, you're going through game day situations, you're working on things. Nope, he's attention to detail kind of guy, which is my kind of guy, because I'm the same way. So man, I just want to say thank y'all for tuning in to Horseshoe Huddle Saddle Up Show, Sports Illustrated, Coats on FN. Y'all like, comment, subscribe. I'm doing the like, comment, subscribe thing. That's it. I never did that before. I always thought it was corny when I see other people do it. And look at me now.
Hey, look at us, right? Look at us. We're insert Paul
Who,
Rudd.
who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Who would have
But
thought?
but thank y'all, man, for tuning in. We will see y'all next week. And if y'all guys want to get a chance to go see our written work, go over to horseshoehuddle.com right now and check those two articles out. By the time you read Destin and my article, you'll feel like you know Shane Steichen personally. You'll feel like you're best friends. You'll feel like me and Destin. That's how you feel. So thank y'all for tuning in, man. We are out. Peace.